Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our monthly apprenticeship meeting. I'm Luther Jackson, recently retired from NovaWorks and now starting a career as a consultant. Great to see everyone, and as I said, we'll see your video shortly. Very pleased to welcome Paula Fryer today. She's the Senior Director at SLO Partners in San Luis Obispo and brings a ton of wisdom and insights for us. Specifically, I guess the breaking news at SLO Partners is, Paula, your advanced manufacturing apprenticeship, and you'll be able to share some of the details about that. But some of you who are longtime apprenticeship fans know that this is not the first visit we've had from SLO Partners. They have a very elegant model as an intermediary. And I really see them as sort of a modern day town square where local businesses and motivated talent meet. So delighted to have you. Before we get started with the presentation, I'd just like to do intros, and this will be difficult without the videos, but we'll give it a try. Paula, just a brief intro, just name, title, and organization, everyone, and then we'll move forward. Paula.
Yep, Paula Fryer, Senior Director for SLO Partners.
Thank you. Temple.
No title, just a apprenticeship member for years and trying to keep you guys honest. That's all.
We appreciate that. Hi, Carl.
Carl Semino, retired apprenticeship coordinator for I was 21 years as a training director for Pipe Trades Training Center.
Thank you. Richard Braden. Richard, can you hear us? We'll come back and check in on you. Ray Kopp.
Ray, you're
I know there's a mute button there. So I'm Ray Kopp. I'm a managing director of a company called 11 Tenths. And that's since July 1st. Before that, I was with the Bay Area Community College Consortium focused on the tech sector. Before that, I taught at a community college and was an administrator. And then before that, I had a career in tech. So I'm 150 years old.
Great to see you. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Holtzclaw, and I am a consultant based out of New Mexico, but doing work for the Chabot Las Positas Community College District.
Thank you.
Managing apprenticeships.
Thanks. Orion?
Yeah, Orion Willis, City and County of San Francisco, Tech SF, founding member of ApprenticeSIP. And I'll be on background. I'm kind of commuting with some kiddos in a second. So Paula, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Orion. Nii Tran?
Hi, everyone. Nii Tran, Employment Development Coordinator with Calbright College.
Thanks. Welcome. Ethne Stewart.
Good afternoon. Ethne Stewart, Project Manager for Calbright College.
Welcome. Jeff.
Hi, everyone. Jeff Palin, Dean of Workforce Innovation at Mission College in Santa Clara.
Thank you, Jeff. Rick Rafey.
Rick Rafey, I'm a consultant. I'm going to be working more directly on apprenticeships, but I've been working with Silicon Valley Education Foundation up until this week.
Great. Adrienne Summers.
Hello, I'm Adrienne Summers. I'm actually from the American Association of Community Colleges from Washington, D.C.
Thanks for joining us again. And who do we have from South Bay today?
It's Super Shepherd. I'm sitting in about 30 miles of not moving traffic.
Oh,
so
okay.
sorry about, so I can't change my name or anything else doing that. But hi, it's good to see you all. And South Bay WIB is very involved with apprenticeship, with SCAN, Southern California Apprenticeship Network, and pleased to be your Southern representative.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us again. So just a brief overview. Paula has about a 10-minute presentation for us, and then we'll do Q&A. Plan to wrap up around 5:25 or 5:30. The only ground rule we like is if you could use the raise hand function, and I will recognize you, and we'll go from there. And again, we will look forward to getting the video issue fixed. So Paula, the stage is all yours.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I don't know how many people are looking at the presentation, but I'll use it anyways, and hopefully it'll all work out. If you have any questions along the way, like you said, be sure to chime in. So first I wanted to just give a background a little bit about myself. For those, if you can see my screen, usually I have a nice headshot, professional headshot, but since this is ApprenticeSIP, I thought that I'd throw in a picture that my kids recently took of me at a wedding, drinking, well, actually I'm holding 3 glasses of wine. They weren't all mine, but SLO, if you haven't been to SLO, we have a some great wineries here. So got to take advantage of that. Got to give my county a little plug there. But I spent 10 years as a technical recruiter and HR specialist. And I hired about 7 apprentices through SLO Partners as a technical recruiter, and became an evangelist of apprenticeship. So what I found when hiring apprentices, some of the pros, for example, were that hiring apprentices really gave me a new talent pool, a diverse talent pool to choose from. I had previously mostly at our entry level areas like software developers and QAs, I had typically hired from our local university, Cal Poly, so 4-year, computer science grads, but they were really hard to attract, really hard to stay local. So SLO Partners was able to offer me people that lived here, that wanted to stay here, raise a family here. And we'd had a lot of problems with, Cal Poly grads staying for a year or something, and then moving on to bigger companies. So that was something that I really appreciated with apprenticeship. Also, another thing that I really found valuable in apprenticeship was, even though a lot of the apprentices were coming into our company at an entry level, skill set, they brought in so many other valuable aspects to their job, including professionalism, knowing how to work in a team, knowing how to work in a business environment. A lot of them had, for example, customer service skills or sales background. They came from different backgrounds, so they came in with, even though they didn't have the specific tech skills that we needed, they really had a professional background that the recent college grads did not have, and was really valuable to us. They were also really eager to learn and grow, and willing to take advantage of the opportunity they were given after going to the training. They were excited to work in the industry, in the software industry. And for my company, it was a startup, so it was growing fast. So hiring apprentices enabled us to have a really solid talent pipeline, so that the people that had been with us for a couple of years were able to become managers. They were able to train the apprentices for the on-the-job training, and really help us to continue to grow. So that was a very valuable thing that apprenticeship brought to our software company. The biggest con was the paperwork. For those of you that are in apprenticeship, the paperwork is a hassle, and this is what on my presentation, it has a person there that's just like, looks very frustrated with all the paperwork. And that was me when Michael Spicariello, if you know him, the executive director of SLO Partners, brought me all the paperwork associated with apprenticeship. It's really hard for a software company or any company to get all that paperwork taken care of. So to me, that was the biggest con of apprenticeship. But the rest, as an employer, as a hiring manager, was really beneficial. So SLO Partners is an intermediary. And so we work directly with the businesses and the apprentices. This slide just gives kind of an overview of our process. We start out really with finding out from the businesses, doing discovery of what is important to them, what they're looking for, what they're having challenges in hiring, or what kind of roles they're having challenges with. So we spend a lot of time doing research on that aspect. And also we kind of have benchmarks as far as the kind of boot camps or trainings that we want to run, they need to have a career trajectory for the people that go through them, for the apprentices. They need to, maybe they'll start out as more entry level, but after a few years, they will grow and earn that head of household income. That's so important. And I know specifically from the recruiting job that I had, I'm still in touch with some of the apprentices that I hired, which is really fun. And they're still there. So I've been with SLO Partners now for 4 years. I was such an evangelist that they talked me into being their director, basically. So I left software and came to work for SLO Partners. But you know, it's that part of it is super important, that we align with the employers first and find out what the biggest needs are. And like I said, I have people that I'm still in touch with. They're still at the company that I worked for. So now they are the managers, making great money, you know, buying houses, all of that. So it's very rewarding to see. So once we identify the kind of boot camp or training that's needed, we do a lot of marketing to bring in our candidates, our students. So we're very in touch with what people are looking for, and I'll talk a little bit about that more regarding our manufacturing boot camp. But we really do a lot of marketing and try to find good candidates that are a good fit for our training programs. Once they sign up for our boot camps, then they go through the process, they go through the training. They're quite rigorous, so that is part of our vetting process. I'll go over the curriculum in a minute, but you'll see how rigorous it is. So that is part of the vetting process. And then once they finish, they complete the cohort successfully, we introduce them to the employers that are hiring, and it's up to the employers to interview our apprentices, you know, basically go through the same hiring process that they would of any one of their employees. So that gives them power. You know, one thing that a lot of employers are afraid of when hiring an apprentice that we found is whether or not they can, you know, fire them if they need to, or reprimand them, or, you know, do the HR stuff that employers need to do. And so empowering the employer that yes, they have, you know, that kind of same kind of leverage that they do as an employer is important. So once the apprentice is hired, we work with the employer throughout the year. We do at least a quarterly check-in. We're competency-based. So we do a quarterly check-in to make sure that everything is smooth, you know, depending on how long the apprenticeship is, a year, 15 months, 18 months. And then once the competency is completed, then they're eligible for their Journey Workers certification. So that's kind of our process in a nutshell. So from our point of view, and something I did when we came in is we consider our customer the businesses. Customer is king. That's actually a slogan that I stole. I used to work for Disney in France, and that was their slogan, L'Invité est roi, it's how you say it in French. But our customer are the employers, is the business. So that's why we focus so much of our time on the customer discovery, making sure that we're offering the right boot camp. And then working with the employer on the curriculum as well is really important to make sure that we're hitting, you know, those areas that our employers are looking for. We also want to offer them the best candidates that we can. So like I said, our curriculum is pretty rigorous. So that is a vetting process in itself. You know, I don't want to pass off candidates to our employers that aren't going to be good apprentices, right? So we want to keep up that reputation that we have so they keep coming back. So we're looking at attendance, we're looking at you know, if they do their homework, if they show up on time, if they work with me on their resume or their interview skills, if they are at appointments when they're supposed to be, those types of things. So we are looking for apprentices that are really going to do well in the jobs that we suggest for them. And then lastly, as far as customers and the businesses, we try to make the whole process as easy as possible for the businesses. And that really came from my perspective as working as a hiring manager, in that time is money. So you have to be respectful of that. You know, having really long meetings with an employer, or stacks of paperwork, or, you know, expecting them to do this, that, and the other just is an uphill battle. People are so busy. And so we at SLO Partners, we try to be really respectful of the time of our employers. And that has proven to work out really well for us, so that our employers come to us when they need somebody. They'll contact us, ask, you know, what we're doing, who we have, that type of thing, which is exactly what we want. So a little bit about a manufacturing bootcamp. We just finished our 7th manufacturing bootcamp. It ended in August. It is typically right around 8 weeks long and goes from Monday to Thursday. We run it during the summer typically, and it's evening. So it's around 5:30 to 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So it's a big commitment for somebody. They're basically giving up most of their summer to attend this. And that really helps also with the vetting process for us to make sure that an apprentice really wants that opportunity to get a new job, to enter into the field, that they're dedicated to this, which to us is very important. So as far as the curriculum goes, we've worked with our employers, and these are the things that we're teaching, which is print reading, shop mathematics, precision measuring, and then we do a lot of really hands-on work. You know, it's the fun part that people really enjoy and have fun doing. Everybody wants to work with their hands. So they assemble and build and fly a drone. It's pretty cool. They get to wear the virtual reality goggles and fly it and see what that feels like. They also get to do the same for a 3D printer, and then they design something that they want to 3D print. So they love to do that as well. We have a robotic arm that takes some programming to do, and same with the electric car. So in all those projects, they're really learning all these hands-on things that they can apply to the jobs that they're going to be going into, or the apprenticeships that they're going to be going into. They get experience in wiring, programming, and also soldering. Soldering is one thing that all of our employers said was really important. One of the employers actually said, when we were asking how in depth they, you know, want us to go, they said, as long as they know which end is the hot end and not to hold that end, that's about, you know, they just want them to know the basics and the general principles of soldering. So we were able to teach them at least what the hot end was. So I'd love to hear from you. I did a recent series of articles on busting modern apprenticeship myths, and I know Rich is on from CompTIA is on this, and this series of articles actually was out of when I went to Chicago and spoke at CompTIA, and kind of learned about all the myths that are out there about apprenticeships. And so I ended up doing this series, and it's on LinkedIn if you're interested in reading the series. And then I'd love to hear feedback, you know, from people about their experiences and what kind of myths that they've heard out there from about apprenticeship. So feel free to reach out to me, pfryer@slopartners.org, and I look forward to connecting with all of you.
Thank you, Paula. And it looks like if everyone can try, the video is now working. So if you could just try to get on, work on your video again, it's now magically come back to life. Thank you for that, Paula. It's a great presentation. And again, really admire the work that you're doing down there. Any questions? I know we have questions. Who has questions? And please raise your hand and I'll recognize you and we'll move forward. Carl?
Carl.
Yeah, what's the length of the apprenticeship?
For modern, for the manufacturing, it is 1 year. Yeah, right.
Registered DAL or DOL?
Both. Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What areas are you doing the apprenticeship in? What states, I should say, are you doing the apprenticeships in?
This one is just in our local area, California, Central Coast, so San Luis Obispo County.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah, I can't remember. Did you say the occupation that you're turning? I mean, advanced manufacturing, but did you say what occupation you're training to?
Michael, do you remember? Michael, I just saw Michael jump on. Technical assembler, I think it is.
Production technician and production technologist.
There you go.
And we're hyper-focused on our local business communities, but because of the DAS and the DOL registration, this could work anywhere. But we're focused on our local employers.
Carl.
Do you guys set the wage, or is the wage flexible based on whatever employer they're going to?
Well, that's a good question because there's like a wage battle going on, definitely. And we've had some employers that just, nobody will take their offers because they just will, will not pay. So for example, one, was offering $19 an hour to start out with, and another one was 25. And, and they called me and they're like, why is nobody accepting my offer, my apprenticeship offer? It's like, well, you're $1,000 a month less than, this other, your competitor. So, the math is pretty clear. That's a huge impact to somebody's livelihood. So we have set it, according to the standards, but really the market is driving it.
Thank you. I've got Deborah, Rick, and then Jeff.
I actually have two questions, if you don't mind. One is, you had mentioned that as when you were in your own business, you hated the paperwork. Has SLO Partners developed a way to manage all the paperwork that you now, as a sponsor, have to do? And then my second question is, I gather you're running the boot camp. What kind of facility do you have in order to do that?
Yeah, so we have a facility. We're part of the County Office of Education, so we're lucky in that respect, in that there is a facility there for us to use for the class. We have done like a hybrid situation where some of the things like print reading and the math aspect were online, and then people would just come in, like during COVID, we did all the 6 feet and all that stuff for the hands-on. But we're lucky that we have a classroom, and we can take up to like 25 or 30 people per class. And then as far as the paperwork, yes, we have a very good system to keep it all in place. We have some ways that we've streamlined it. One huge thing is we use Salesforce to organize our whole database. So, we can keep track of all of our paperwork in there. We know everything that employers have signed, the apprentices have signed. It's all in a database for us, including like emails and any kind of correspondence. We have a very robust database that we use.
Thank you. Rick?
Hi, I got disconnected for part of when you were talking about pros. So and you said, or I heard somebody referenced 12 partners. So just wanted to understand a little bit about how your process for engaging the partners. I mean, I know as a recruiter, you basically have people, companies already aligned with you, but specifically around apprenticeships, what has it involved and what's worked and been challenging when you've been trying to bring people in that want to do apprenticeships?
So you mean the employers or the hiring partners?
Right.
Yeah. So I was lucky because I'd already been in the industry on the other side. So we live in a bit of a smaller community. So I was kind of like a spy in a way, because our community is so small that if you want to hire anybody with experience within the software industry, you basically have to poach them. So all of the HR people knew each other, and we would kind of like, poach from each other, which isn't a great way to do things. But so when I came over to SLO Partners, then I had relationships already with a lot of the people that were in the tech industry. So that was really helpful. And then through that, just networking, asking who's who. I would also go on LinkedIn. I got really active on LinkedIn. That was a really great resource for me, and why I'm still really active on it today. If you can upgrade to the, I can't remember what the top level, the premier level is, and that way you can do a lot of research and reach out to people. I would find who was advertising for jobs on Indeed or LinkedIn, and then reach out to them and talk and try to introduce apprenticeship that way to them. And also that way you can also on LinkedIn, you can see like who you know that may know them, and ask for connections that way.
Thanks, Paula and Rick. Jeff, please.
Yeah. Hi, Paula. I have a couple of questions about the classroom instruction side of the apprenticeship program. And I may have missed some comments. I did get a phone call in the middle of everything. So I assume that there is a piece of curriculum that's being taught to the apprentices first before they actually get their on-the-job training. Is that correct?
That's right. We have an 8-week, we call it a boot camp, but it's an 8-week training, and it is in person.
And is it credit bearing? In other words, do the apprentices earn credit, college credit for these classes?
We have worked with our local community college in the past so that they did. It was kind of a difficult process because they basically had to register with the community college and through us. So we don't have that relationship anymore. So that it's just through SLO Partners. So through SLO Partners, no, they don't get.
And who
credit.
teaches the classes, this 8-week boot camp?
We have one instructor who's our main instructor. And then we actually have this summer, we had 2 assistant instructors that were graduates from our first boot camp, which is really amazing. They have done extremely well since graduating from our first boot camp, and loved the program. Like, I mean, it really did change their lives, basically. So they really wanted to get back, and they were very involved in it.
So in just my final question, is there a, what would I call it? Is there a sequence of classes in this 8-week boot camp? And do you have, or would you give us at least the titles of those classes? Or is it just a advanced manufacturing boot camp and the students go through this 8-week boot camp and then go on to the on-the-job training?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you, and I went over this in my presentation. I'm not sure if you heard it or not, but I can tell you the curriculum. Is that what you're kind of thinking?
Yeah.
You're looking for? So the curriculum is basically, and this was really developed alongside of our employers, so it hits what they're looking for as well. Print reading, shop mathematics, precision measuring, and then we do a really intensive hands-on part, which takes up most of the class. They work in teams. So they build and fly drones. They build and use 3D printers. They build and program a robotic arm and an electric car. So in addition to that, or through all of that, they're working on electronic wiring, some programming skills, and then they're also doing soldering.
Thank you.
I think it's important to note that the local employers and the apprenticeship candidates, the college credit is not important to them. We've done surveys with them and asked them, and neither the employers nor the candidates are seeing any value in any of the credits. And it's also interesting that the local community college, there's a new engineering dean, and there really isn't a manufacturing program. And they don't know which discipline this fits in because it is such a hybrid of between manufacturing and engineering. And these are technicians who work right underneath some very interesting engineering firms and companies that are doing prototyping and working on just some very interesting contracts with the government.
Another thing I want to talk just briefly about the curriculum that's interesting is, you know, we do a lot of advertising. We need to recruit people to go through our apprenticeships, and the drone aspect is something that we added this year. And that really was because we have some aerospace companies in our area and they were interested in our students learning that, but also it was a tactic to attract people. I mean, a lot of people are interested in drones. They want to know how it works, you know, so we use kind of like a business acumen to attract the apprentices. It's not always just straightforward. We never just continuously do what we've done before. We're always trying to think of what's fresh, what's new. Technology is changing so fast. You know, what can we do that's interesting? Like, who knows, we might introduce some AI down the road or something like that. So we're always trying to pivot and like evolve.
Paula, you mentioned aerospace as an employer. Could you give us some kind of a sampling of some of the other employers who where your graduates could end up with?
Yeah, let's see. There's some that are work in defense, building satellites and things like that. We have one that it's called Mantis Composites, and it is basically 3 Cal Poly grads who started this business, and they make really strong, they 3D print really strong filaments and have specific tips that they use to 3D print so that they are hired by companies that are building like airplanes or rocket ships and things like that, where they need these really strong but really light components. So they've hired our grads. Let's see, there's a company called Edge Autonomy who's hired, who they make like a small aircraft. Another one is called ES Aero, and they build drones. They just did a project where they were making, I think it was like, I don't know, 200 drones that would sync up and fly together and be able to drop things. So if you had military or something, you could send 200 drones to a place, drop water or supplies to them, and fly back out really quickly. So they've hired a lot of our grads. So yeah, all different kinds of companies. It's pretty amazing in our small area who's here building things. Another one is Zern. I don't know if you've heard of Zern, but they're an international company. And if you ever look at a drain in the floor of a bathroom, it says Zern on it. So they make all these different kinds of parts. We have some biomedical engineering companies that hire our grads. So that's one thing that kind of makes it fun, is our graduates, our apprentices have a variety. It kind of fit their interests of what they're interested in, and what kind of company they want to go into. So we've made the boot camp kind of general enough so that it fits all these, you know, all these different kinds of companies, giving them the tools to go into them and know enough so that they, once the on-the-job training kicks in, they have the foundation that they need.
Thank you. That's great. Could you talk a little more about just your process for selecting, for example, this industry sector, advanced manufacturing? Was it just kind of an outpouring from local businesses saying this is what we want? How do you go about and determine what really is of interest in the community?
Yeah, this one, you know, it just depends. This one has been a consistent, like I said, this is our 7th one, but we have changed it up. Like we've added the drone component. We did have a company called Rantec Systems who they basically sponsored us to do a boot camp in February. So they actually had 40 spots to fill. And so they sponsored our boot camp, and we kind of took the foundation of our boot camp and tweaked it. They wanted a little bit more electronics oriented. So we were able to do that, work with them and do that. They had some guest speakers, they did some demonstrations, that type of thing. So it all comes back to who's hiring. I mean, we don't want to do training without jobs on the other end. And I would say 95% of our apprentices who, you know, stay with the company, do their year or whatever apprenticeship, at least 95 just turn into, you know, solid employees, which is exactly what we want.
That's great. Annie, I see your applause. Did you have a comment or question?
Thanks, Luther. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I love that, Paula. It sounds so simple, but that there are actually jobs on the other side of these trainings. I know a lot of folks, you know, will go through and putting your life on hold or whatever you need to do as an adult to go through these trainings and then have no, you know, real solid job prospect at the end. I think that's really important to underscore. While I have you, I would love to hear, like, what's one of your favorite myths that you wrote about and you could share with this group? I think we'd get a kick out of that and just kind of hear how you expounded upon that. Is that okay, Luther?
Oh, sure. That's great.
Okay.
I know I'd be interested to see what other people think are myths, but I guess the one that comes to my mind is that an apprenticeship, and I don't know if I'm saying this right or not, but apprenticeship isn't like a charity. You know, it's not, they're not doing a favor to us. It's the other way around, basically, you know. And that's when I was a hiring manager, when I was an employer, that was my perception. I was so happy to have SLO Partners give me 10 resumes of, you know, great potential employees or apprentices. And that's how I want every employer to view us. I don't want them thinking, oh, we're doing a community service by hiring our apprentices or whatever it is. I want them to come to us and say, hey, we need some good candidates. Who do you have? That is my whole goal in doing this, really.
I love that. And I love that your perspective you bring to this space as a former hiring manager. I think that's so valuable. Thank you.
Yeah, I think when you have that mindset, it kind of changes everything.
Carl.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed it. How do you do the outreach to get this cadre of employers signed up? How do you make contact with the employers?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a difficult part of it. You know, it's kind of a sales job in a way to get employers involved, but that's part of what I was talking about, is the value that your apprenticeship program adds to their talent pipeline. I mean, I think looking at it from an employer's perspective instead of like a workforce development perspective changes everything. It changes the mindset. And so, you know, having the mindset that you're adding value to an employer really helps. And so when you go into those meetings, it's like, here's how we can get you a talent pipeline so that you can grow the current team that you have and make it into management or whatever you want. And we have these perfect entry level people that can come in and you're just creating a talent pipeline for your business that's ongoing and steady and dependable. And we're giving you good candidates, you know, so it is kind of a sales technique. And I mentioned this before, but the way that I went about approaching businesses was really through mostly LinkedIn and Indeed and finding companies that were hiring and reaching out to them. But my sales pitch was always, and that's what I called it basically, a sales pitch, was always like, here's how, you know, here's some great candidates that we can offer to you. And it is an uphill battle explaining apprenticeship. That can be tough. But it's changing mindsets and having some successes and getting some, like we always advertise the businesses that work with us because, and we do videos, we do a lot of videos. Testimonials are huge. So once you have an anchor business, leverage that as much as possible, you know, do the testimonial videos, do the quotes on your website, all of that, because you know, that's the kind of snowball that you want to perpetuate.
Great response. So kind of related question, in addition to getting the, you know, helping kind of develop the community mindset that this is really building the community, it's not charity. If you had a magic wand, what other things would you want to see to really help your organization, what you're doing continue to grow?
For our area, I think what I would love to see more is more like just the tech industry grow in our area. We're, you know, pretty rural, so we have a hard time attracting bigger employers here. So that can be, and that's why we're more of an intermediary, because we don't have the huge companies that can say, oh, I'll hire 20 software developers or whatever, you know. So we have to work with all these small to medium-sized businesses to kind of parse out our apprentices. So I wish we had bigger employers. Yeah, right.
It just, you sound just like Santa Cruz County.
Yeah.
You know, we're so similar with the university on one end of the county and the ag on the other.
Yeah, exactly. True.
I'm wondering about your, I guess if it were private, you'd call it your business model. So what's your mix of funding that sustains the organization, or at least this aspect of SLO Partners?
I think Michael can speak better to that. I try to stay out of that.
I don't blame.
We have a really great leader. Our elected superintendent is committed to a cradle to career education system in the county. So the facilities and salaries of the majority of our very small team is that's covered by the County Office of Education. Then, because of our successes, we have a lot of private foundation and other private donors that have donated money towards the programming side of this venture, because they see the value as both an economic development driver and a workforce development driver. And our initial seed funding came from an initial California Apprenticeship Initiative grant. So we really had the business model of, all right, we're a funded startup. Are we going to create something of value? And who is our customer? And if we do this right, we will have a customer at the end of the day that is helping to support this program. And so this is definitely a really great model of private and public funding, a government business partnership that we've created in this in San Luis Obispo.
And have you got a pre-apprenticeship that's feeding into these?
Yes, we have done that in the past, and we have a number of our CTE programs, high school CTE programs and things. In some ways, the way that we do the front loading of the boot camp, it exists as a pre-apprenticeship anyway. And then you only become an apprentice when you get that hiring offer.
Got it.
So
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
in some ways, it is already de facto a pre-apprenticeship already.
Okay.
Is it a night school or day school?
This is from 5:30 to about 8:30 or 9, Monday through Thursday.
So they're working during the day and they go to school at night.
Typically, yeah, that's how we've had it. And also because of instructors, our instructors have day jobs too. So, you know, you have to work around that too.
Just very cool. Just very, very cool.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you all listening, and thanks for your support. It's great.
I'd like to put you in the role, put your advisor hat on if you would. And I mean, you've got, again, a very elegant intermediary system. You've become a real trusted resource for the community. What are a few things you would recommend for the rest of us in our communities that we could kind of build our, what are some of the important factors for building this sort of really a reputation as a trusted resource in the community for both employers and for the talent?
Let's see. Well, I'm not that familiar with all of your programs, so I don't know exactly, you know, maybe I can ask, you know, what are some barriers, you know, talking about this article series that I've done about myths, what are some barriers that you all see when you're within your programs? Right?
Right.
Yeah, we're finding a pretty common perception, especially in the tech industry, in spite of the IBM apprenticeships and the Accenture apprenticeships and stuff. We're still finding that people imagine that apprenticeships are union, that it's a union that's going to be the intermediate, that you have to have a union as the intermediary because their model is from the construction trades. So that's just a presumption on the part of many people pretty high up, actually, I'd say, in the tech industry.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's definitely one thing we countered, and that's another one of the articles that I did too, is that a myth is that all apprenticeships are trade. One thing that we did to try to separate that was we called our apprenticeships modern apprenticeships, just to kind of delineate it from a traditional apprenticeship. I would go to like HR meetings and things like that and give presentations to try to educate the difference between, you know, what people think of traditional apprenticeships. So those strategies kind of worked. And then, to be honest, the best strategy that I've used is to not bring up apprenticeship until the very end. Just slide it in there, you know, because it is a tough sell and people don't understand it. And then when you do have the paperwork, but when you get the opportunity, after you kind of introduce them to the idea, and then you get the opportunity to talk to them about modern apprenticeship, you can introduce it more as like a mentorship and on-the-job training and that type of thing, which is more the speak. You know, you have to figure out how they talk to each other and what the speak is in tech. And then you can kind of work with the business that way. So that's one thing I've seen a lot with apprenticeship programs, is they're so persistent on like apprenticeship speak and state speak and all of that, which employers don't understand, don't have the time to learn, don't care that much actually. They want to know, bottom line, time is money. How long is it going to take for this person to start getting to work and helping out my business? So if you can solve that problem for them, they're way more willing to listen to you. But when you go into all of the apprenticeship speak and the State Department and this and that and the other, it is a immediate turnoff, because in their mind they're seeing dollar signs flying out the door and just complications and paperwork and all of that. So the more for us, the more we could think like a business instead of like, you know, the apprenticeship program, it's helped us a lot.
That's a great point about messaging. Thanks for that.
Get rid of all those acronyms.
Any other questions for Paula? This has been great. Anything else? Well, Paula, this has been fantastic. We really appreciate your time and your partnership, and we know that you're going to continue to do great stuff down there at SLO. So please keep in touch and let us know when you have new things to come up. We're always happy to hear from you. So thanks again.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Just want to say a word about next month, which is our next meeting is at 4:30 on Wednesday, October 25th, always the fourth Wednesday of the month. We're really pleased. We're going to have Mike Roberts there, who's the founding CEO of Creating Coding Careers. And they've really made great progress addressing the lack of diversity in tech. And I know that the question of tech came up earlier. They have a tech apprenticeship program and pre-apprenticeship program. I'll just read you, I'll whet your appetite with a few statistics from their impact report. 100% of their apprentices are earning a living wage during the apprenticeship. The average starting salary post-apprenticeship is $82,000. And demographically, 42% of their participants are women, 39% are Black, and 21% are Latinx. So I know we're in an era where a lot of folks are talking about diversity. Here's an opportunity to really dig in and hear what some of the tools are that are making that possible. Creating Coding Careers is in Southern California, near San Diego, but they are interested in partnering with employers up here. So it could be a good opportunity to see what we can do. So hope to see everyone on October 25th, and we'll send out a note on that again. Unless there are any other comments, thank you all so much. It's been great to see you, and thanks for being great apprentice-sippers. Take care. Have a great evening.
Have a good one.